Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Katie Kapka, and my lovely team is responsible for putting on Caspian's webinars. We're so excited to have you today to talk about this timely topic and how you can use dropshipping to really hedge against volatility, especially with the recent FBA Amazon restrictions. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. Of course, this presentation, the deck, the recording will all be sent out to you by end of day today to the email with which you registered. We are also going to host a Q&A section at the end, so please drop any questions that come to mind in the Q&A box, and we will be sure to get to those. If we get too many, we'll be sure to follow up with you individually. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our first host today, Evan Durant.
Hey folks, thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. My name's Evan Durant. I somewhat resemble the gentleman in that picture from 7 years ago. I'm the GM for Dropship. I've been around with Caspian for about 7 years. Fun facts are I immigrated briefly to the UK. I did stuff there for about 14 months to set up some overseas business stuff for Caspian. I also once accidentally swallowed a AAA battery in my 20s. And I get reverse seasick. So I have great sea legs. I love being on boats. I really love being on boats. But sometimes when I return to land, then I start falling over. Jim, tell us about yourself and about being abandoned in Chicago.
Oh, sure. I get a lot of questions on this. Hi, everybody. Name's Jim Briggs. I'm one of the business development folks here at Caspian, basically sales. I've been here for 2 years, but I've been in the sales and logistics biz for about 15 years. Some fun facts about me. I was accidentally or on purpose, I guess I'll never know, left on the L train in downtown Chicago when I was around 8 or 9 years old, and was left on the train for a good 3 to 4 hours, abandoned, I guess, left at a train station where someone came and eventually got me. But that was a cool experience. It's made me into the man I am today. I'm told I make a mean spaghetti, so let me know if you'd like some. And I'm actually the president and founder of the Spokane Whiskey Club. So there you go. That's me. Next slide, Katie. We'll go ahead and cover the agenda real quick. We're going to cover an introduction to dropshipping. We're going to define terms, define what dropshipping is, to make sure that we're all on the same page, cover different kinds of dropshippers. We'll also cover how to use dropshipping amidst the inventory restrictions that we find ourselves in with Amazon, how to mitigate that risk and how best to navigate those waters. We'll pepper in some dropship success stories, some case studies for you all. And then of course, we'll end with a live Q&A. So what is Caspian? So what is Caspian? We are an e-commerce platform. And our mission is to optimize and grow brands on today's leading marketplaces. Some quick history: our company was founded in 2008 as a niche third-party reseller on Amazon. Our partnership model at the time was traditional third-party retail relationships where we would buy products from a brand at a wholesale level and then resell those products on a platform such as Amazon. Over time, however, we saw the need to expand the services and partnerships we offered to brands as the landscape changed and evolved over time. And we wanted to be able to invest more in a brand's equity by being a one-stop shop for any given brand that came our way. So we built Caspian to provide a full suite of services under one roof and be able to pivot a brand to a new partnership model if need be. So in our company's 13-year history, we have serviced over 4,000 brands and have grown to be one of the oldest and largest e-com platforms on the market. We still offer retail partnerships, one of those being Dropship, as well as agency partnerships in the form of full channel management, as well as a growing software division where we develop SaaS tools to offer to other sellers. So that is Caspian in a nutshell. I'll go ahead and turn this over to Evan so we can talk about all things Dropship.
Yeah, so very excited to be talking with y'all about dropshipping today. Really, the biggest thing to take away here is that this is another tool in your tool belt, especially with regards to supply chain volatility and what Amazon's doing with fulfillment by Amazon inventory restrictions, right? They're restricting by unit count over cubic volume. And so things are getting a little bit weird. And dropshipping is one solution that helps a bunch with it. So What does that kind of look like from an order flow standpoint? You'll see this chart on the left. It's pretty basic. Customer's going to buy something from Amazon. They're going to pay Amazon. If we're selling the product, they're going to pay Amazon. Amazon will eventually pay us. And then we're going to order that product. We're going to send a PO over for that product to somebody who's enrolled in our dropship program. We're going to say, hey, here's this order for this single unit. That company will send it direct to the customer. And then they will bill us. We pay the company that sent the product. Amazon pays us. Rinse, repeat, do it 500,000 million times. So sounds super simple, super easy. And we definitely didn't have a decimal error in 2013 that cost us $1 million because of selling a product for 10% of its cost. That definitely never has occurred. That was a long time ago, and we've got a lot of safeguards against that. So dropshipping it's great. It's fantastic for this supply chain volatility. It's a really good way to get around some of the Amazon inventory limits and also the long-term storage fees. So you're able to diversify and kind of hedge against risk of stagnant inventory. But it is also something you got to be careful with because of not owning the inventory or not having the inventory on hand. You can blow through a lot really fast. So some terms to know. Fulfillment by Amazon. If you're coming in here fresh, fulfillment by Amazon is it's Caspian's bread and butter. It's what we really love to do and love to leverage. But it's not the only thing we do. Fulfillment by Amazon is using Amazon's network of warehouses to fulfill products, fulfill prime offers and non-prime offers anywhere in the country. So we're using them as a 3PL provider and also as a warehouse. Merchant Fulfilled Network, or FBM, is just as it sounds. So that is using one of the warehouses in your supply chain to store and ship inventory. For FBM, Amazon's going to measure ODR, which is order defect rate, which has to be 2.5%. Yeah, 2.5% or less. Valid track, which needs to be, ooh, this is a good quiz for me. 95% or better. And on-time delivery rate needs to be 97% or better. I might have just flipped those two live, but I can assure you we're always looking at those metrics. Effectively, what happens is if you become substandard on your seller account for any of those, Amazon's going to be unhappy, and things can happen to your account, such as an account shutdown or being basically banned from listing products in specific categories. For Caspian dropship, we define it pretty simply. We define it as fulfilling orders on marketplace using inventory that we don't own. We do tons of different kind of fulfillment strategies with merchant fulfilled network orders going through companies such as Deliver, for instance. But for us, when we're just talking specifically about dropship, we're talking about orders on marketplace for inventory that we don't currently own. Therefore, the POs that are received for any dropship orders reflect the exact orders that are on marketplace. We can go on to the next slide. So we're going to look at a couple different types of drop shippers. This is a lot of fun. The first one is the classic dropship archetype. This is equivalent to any kind of get-rich kind of thing you'll see online. Generally speaking, these are the folks who are selling a dropship program that you can enroll in for the low cost of $1,000 or $2,000, and you'll definitely make money. And so yeah, let's watch a little TikTok for teenagers only.
This is for teenagers only. So anyone else, keep scrolling. So right now we're all stuck in quarantine. Nobody's going out. So I'm going to show you guys how to make this much money every single day, literally from staying home. So hear me out. If you guys want to make 3, 4, 5 grand a day, this is what you have to do. Drop shipping. All drop shipping is buying a product for low, selling it for high. For example, buy this for $1, sell it for $2. If you want to learn how you can start, check out my profile.
Great.
It's just that easy.
Yeah, it's just that easy. Sitting in what is it? Probably a Maserati or something. So this is kind of the classic out of the garage dropship approach, sourcing product from wherever and whenever. And this is kind of the people who are flipping products, right? They're saying, hey, let's just go buy this and let's go sell it over here. Generally speaking, this will involve retail arbitrage. If you ever want a really good read, oh gosh, I can't remember the company. One of the largest eBay sellers in the UK actually started by selling stuff from the dollar store on eBay. That was like their whole entire business for years. They would just go to the dollar store, pick up a bunch of stuff, throw it out on eBay. But that's the kind of idea over here. So no real interaction with the brand, nothing like that. And so this isn't us, but it is one of the many versions of dropship that's out there. Next up, we've got the niche dropshipper. These are usually single category focused folks who are using dropship to help with their overall supply and availability. So this would be maybe a personal safety company that's selling at a gun show, as well as their own storefront, as well as swap meet, as well as their online website. This is totally great. I think these are awesome side or primary businesses. It's still not us, right? Because Caspian's expertise is in the Amazon platform, so we're able to fill any number of categories, and we aren't locked into one. A little bit more about the niche dropshipper. Usually, this is going to be product with more nuances. It requires more customer interaction. For example, tasers or pepper spray. There's a company that I talked to recently who do a lot of those personal safety products. And anyone who's in that space with that company, figuring out how to do dropship, they're looking at a lot of documentation. They're answering questions from customers based on state laws and things like that. And that's also not exactly what we're doing here, because we're serving a little bit wider of a net and able to cast a wider net overall. And so you get to our approach to dropship. Our ideal state is to be a true extension of your brand. So that looks like a whole bunch of different pieces all put together. And so that's taking a wide catalog approach through dropship, as well as an approach through FBA, using dropship as one of many tools in the tool belt to best represent your brand on Amazon. And what that does for us is that allows us to hedge for volatility. Right now, we're seeing this real intense scrutiny from Amazon on oversized and standard sized inventory constraints. We're seeing we aren't seeing right now, but we have seen kind of during the spikes in COVID, even a preference for FBM orders over FBA orders, which is previously unprecedented. So we know that diversifying our fulfillment strategy with your brand is one of the best things that we can do, because it allows us to still represent as much as possible on Amazon, while not taking on risks that could adversely impact your brand in the future. One of the ways to kind of conceptually think about this is, if there's product that isn't meeting the right velocity requirement, maybe we can't order a case pack of it. If we were to say, okay, we'll just go ahead and order this case pack, we're going to make it happen, and we only sell one unit and a year goes by, then we're in a point of friction, because we're sitting there with inventory. It's costing us inventory storage fees. It's costing us now also the opportunity cost with the inventory limits. And we've got to either find a way to sell it back or find a way to liquidate it. Nobody wins, right? Really, the only person winning there is whichever company's getting paid to move that inventory around over and over again. So this allows us a hedge to risk, and then also a hedge to volatility. If we are stocked in FBA of a product and we sell out immediately, let's say something happens like a Delta variant of a virus that's been around comes out and shuts everything down, and then we sell through all the product, having backup stock readily available is huge and helpful. In addition to this, we are able to handle taxes, do customer service, do marketing, and deal with SLAs, but we're going to touch on all of those here in just a minute. So moving on down the line, we're going to talk about protecting profits amongst all these restrictions. Here's some headlines. They go hand in hand with what we're talking about. This is from May of this year. Amazon hobbling merchants prep for Prime Day, and then inventory limits making it tough for merchants to meet demand. If you've got a seller account, I'm sure that you're well aware that this is something that is occurring in the marketplace even today. So moving on to kind of what it looks like to diversify demand, there's different types. So we've got fulfilled by merchant, right? Or merchant fulfilled network. Internally, we use these interchangeably. If you've got different definitions for the two, please send them my way. I'm happy to get better and more eloquent. But for these MFN listings, you can send these from a couple different spots. So you can fulfill from your warehouse, should they be capable. If you have a distributor, you can fulfill from their warehouse, should they be capable. From a 3PL that's part of your supply chain, maybe they are aggregating orders as they come in. Maybe they're the folks who are dealing with unpacking your containers if you're sourcing product from overseas, or from a 3PL that's part of your fulfillment strategy. So for instance, if you're already working with someone like XPO who's going to be labeling shipments for you, it's a quick hop, skip, and a jump to say what happens if we allocate some of this product for direct to consumer from your warehouse. Finally, one thing that we're going to touch on is seller fulfilled prime. I'm not going to make any like super big claims around our strategy there, but it's so fun to talk about, and so we'll go through it. First off, we'll talk about just a quick example. We're working with this brand. They had some issues with regards to getting an ASIN ungated with Amazon. We were working with them, and we couldn't send in fulfillment by Amazon stock until it's ungated, just because of the way the shipment creation process goes. So this had been occurring for a little bit, and COVID happens, right? And FBA inventory still had not been sent in. Finally, this came to a head where it's just like, we've got to do something. We've got to do anything. So on the 2nd of April, we jumped on a call. We said, hey, do you guys have inventory? Are y'all able to route this through your current D2C operations? They said, yes, here's the information we need. We said, great, here's an example. They said, yes, that looks good. Same day, we got the listings live, and we were able to use MFN orders as a stopgap measure all the way through July. And we were able to capture about 2,000, 2,100 additional sales for the brand in being able to represent their inventory when there were problems with the FBA supply chain. So again, just another example of how MFN orders can really help smooth things out during these volatile times. So again, here I am using FBM and MFN interchangeably all the time, but looking at these fulfilled by merchant orders, direct to consumer is a great thing to use as a stopgap measure. Our best practices that we've seen is if you're setting up something that is effectively sending some spreadsheets, not really doing an integration, but just trying to keep listings live, having a single threaded leader on both sides responsible for orders, tracking, and invoices helps a ton. So we really recommend anyone who's looking at this as a potential hedge to volatility to be thinking and be cognizant of who can I appoint to really be driving along each one of those steps. To be proactive in this space, you really need to know, for lack of a better term, your SLAs. This equates to how long does it take to get an order out the door? How long would it take to send invoicing over to a partner? How long would it take to send tracking over? If you know those, companies like us, we're able to work with you in setting up listings that represent those SLAs and then insulate from risk of customer disappointment. If you know that you're going to take 3 to 5 days to send a product out the door, we do not want to be telling a customer they're going to get a product shipped out within 2 days, because that is a setup for sadness. Next up, you want to get set up early. There are brand gating and ungating issues, especially if you end up switching strategies with which seller account is selling inventory. So we want to discover these way in advance. We want to know, hey, if there's going to be a brand gating issue, let's cover that when we're not in the middle of Q4 or in the middle of a time where orders need to be live tomorrow. There's also product compliance issues. One of the examples is the word bacteria is blowing up listings right now. So also want to make sure that should Amazon take down a listing for something that is previously unknown, that we cover that well in advance. And then finally, we want to test the whole thing through beforehand. Just make sure that this works, that this is scalable, and this is useful. One other important piece is considerations regarding buy box. So fulfilled by merchant orders do not see the the same buy box rotation that an FBA order would, well, that a prime order would. So if you have multiple sellers in your channel, all those FBA orders at one, and everyone's priced the same, all the FBA sellers are going to rotate, and then an FBM seller will rotate afterwards. In addition to this, we do see velocity differences between FBM and FBA orders. Previous rule of thumb was that an FBM order would see about a 20% velocity decrease, but that's a pretty kind of old metric, but still a standard that we mentally consider when looking at just FBM. Again, that doesn't really take into account the current situation, the current craziness, and doesn't take into account any of these times that Amazon's prioritizing FBM over FBA. SFP. SFP is so fun. It's absolutely crazy and wild, and the requirements continue to get more and more stringent. So real talk, if you're doing SFP out of a single warehouse and you're doing standard size products that are over a couple pounds, I would love to hear from you, just because having seen the rates for those, I'm super curious about how folks who are making it work from a single warehouse. So the big difference for SFP is standard right now is required to be nationwide, which means that whether you're in one warehouse or 17 warehouses, you need to offer 2-day shipping for any standard sized SFP product. Oversize is a little bit different. In oversize, you can do some regional pieces, so you can stick to only ground shipments, which helps out a lot with the costs. It's also good to be cognizant of the difference between FedEx and UPS for these. As a seller, after you get enrolled in SFP, you're able to put in a FedEx or UPS number, which is either yours or the partner that you're working with to fulfill it. And Seller Central will have different rates than what you'll actually be billed. So your actual build cost, should you be doing SFP, you're going to want to be checking your receipts from FedEx and UPS to confirm. Finally, seller fulfilled prime takes time. You've got to do a bunch of tests, you've got to get approved, and then you've got to execute on a really stringent defect rate. So you got to have less than 1% defect rate for buying shipping through MWS, for on-time delivery, and for cancellations. So SFP is really, really great if you're set up for it. If you're not, I would be hesitant to say, hey, rely on this. So whenever you're considering SFP, make sure that you're working with a partner, ideally who's got multiple warehouses, ideally who's got some kind of rate card that you can look at, and then also is proven and able and capable to meet all of the requirements, because there are a lot. Looking at another case study, we got Probo. This is such a fun product. This is effectively a wooden tool that helps make the perfect picturesque gift wrap bows. And naturally last year with a product like this, we ran into supply chain issues in August, which is basically the worst possible thing you can do in the lead up to Q4 for a product that is centered around gifts and gift giving. This product, of course, has these seasonal demand surges in Q4. And so we said, okay, what can we do here? We started talking with Dave over at Probo, and we were able to get a setup so that we could continue to fulfill units from Dave's warehouse during times when we were still receiving product from FBA, or during times where we saw sharp spikes in sales and stocked out. So we had about 2,300 units fulfilled. We did not stock out of any SKUs on Marketplace during that time. And most importantly, we continued to have that listing live, which keeps the rank from just degrading. So, as you guys know, Amazon rank is one of the, those holy grail metrics that you're always going to be watching and always concerned about, because it directly impacts where on a search page you're going to show up. And so we were able to protect that rank and keep it afloat right before that seasonal lift. So a couple additional benefits with working with a brand extension dropshipper. Really, the biggest piece is mitigating risk and labor expense. You know, we already, for instance, Caspian already operates with economies of scale. We've already got our seller account. We are actively drop shipping with other folks as well. So there's if there's ODR, VTR, or late ship, right? Any issues with shipment can be potentially not swept under the rug, but folded into the rest of our metrics while we fix those. We're handling all the customer service, product compliance issues should they appear, and then also the big thing, if you're not already set up with tax in all 50 states, eventually you'll need to do that, and that can be very cumbersome. The other additional great piece is, you know, getting paid directly for invoices versus waiting on Amazon. And the other key piece with that is, should something untoward happen to your Amazon account, Amazon will lock down those funds, and that can be a serious cash flow issue as well. Next up, we're going to talk about one of the most fun things with dropship, and that is Amazon Business and unit discounts. So what you'll see over on this mess of an Excel sheet is an example of dropship versus FBA at the top for a single unit sale where we're making negative margin, and then a single unit sale where we're making comparable margin but able to pass on a huge amount of savings to the customer and reduce the sale price. What this illustrates is that dropship naturally scales when we're doing multi-unit sales, and we're able to create a compelling offer for folks to do purchases through the B2B platform. Amazon B2B is a login only platform, so pricing isn't advertised to the public, so we're not dealing with brand erosion on a public marketplace. We're just able to offer potentially better prices to customers who are business accounts. Overall, you can see at the bottom, we see a massive increase in both unit and order size on the B2B platform. And then it's also worth noting that Amazon incentivizes B2B customers as they give terms to those B2B customers. So we actually get paid a little bit slower, but those B2B customers with their automatic terms have that great incentive to be shopping on the platform.
Okay, I might as well jump in here a little bit, give Evan a break. So we're going to switch gears slightly here and talk about marketing support. So a good dropship partner needs to be able to add value to your business, and one great way to provide value is in the form of marketing services. And we've talked briefly before about different kinds of dropship partners, some of whom offer no real value outside of being just yet another seller on your listing. But a brand-centric partner can add real value, which is a must on today's Amazon. So before we break that down, a quick word on why this is important. So you can be very successful on Amazon, make a lot of money, you can have your dreams come true, but it takes time, investment, and know-how. I'm gonna set the stage here a little bit. So before COVID, there were 2.5 million sellers on Amazon's marketplace. No math expert, but I think that's a large number, possibly. After COVID, well, during COVID really, we saw an additional 1.3 million sellers jump into the Amazon pool. So even though there are 200 million unique visitors that shop Amazon every month, you are still selling in a saturated marketplace, and as such need to distinguish yourself, your listing, your product as much as possible. One of the ways you can do this is by extracting advantage from Amazon's many marketing tools available. Next slide, Kenny. So point of order, a listing needs to be optimized and marketed no matter if it's offered via FBA, FBM, DS, seller fulfilled prime, or even delivered via wooden wagon. An optimized listing can only benefit you. So I like to talk about listing optimization in two ways, or listing health, product health, in two ways: discoverability and buyability. So let's cover them briefly here. So discoverability, it speaks to how a shopper can find your listing. Your discoverability can be organic, where a shopper types in search terms related to your product or your actual product name and finds your listings organically in the search results page. And you can strengthen your position by optimizing your keyword placement in the product's title, in the bullet points, the product description, as well as the back-end keywords. A good e-commerce partner, dropship partner should be able to guide you through these waters. You can also purchase your placement, your search placement, through sponsored product ads, sponsored brand ads that can show up in the search results. We designed a software here at Caspian a software tool to manage cost per click marketing for our brands called Ad Manager, and can use that tool to assist with your discoverability on Amazon. Also look for support with display ads. Sponsored display ads, a very powerful placement ad on Amazon's platform, as well as helping you design your brand storefront. Also, a strong mention here that bears repeating, social media channel management and paid social ads on Facebook and Instagram. They're good ways to drive traffic to your listings. It can also drive traffic to your website or wherever you want. Influencer marketing can also be a really powerful tool here to drive traffic, as social media influencers can be hired, in a sense, to sell your product on their channels and then send shoppers your way. If you think of Amazon as a gigantic city, it's important to continually build highways to your city, to Amazon, as a way to drive traffic and thus resulting sales. But this is only part of the battle. Once you get a shopper to your listing, that's one thing, but you almost now have to convince them to buy it. So we'll go ahead and look at buyability. So a shopper is of no value to you unless they convert to a customer. To close them, always be closing, Evan, you must optimize your listing's buyability by providing rich content in your copy, by presenting your product's features, by presenting your unique value proposition as a differentiator between other products in your category. So below the fold on a listing, you can provide what is also called A+ content, giving your listings visitors an enhanced presentation of your product by showing lifestyle images. You can show additional info. We don't have a picture of it here, but comparison charts. Also, if you have variants, getting those properly listed on your parent listing is important as well for overall listing health, making it easier for a shopper to convert. Think of your listings as your digital packaging. The better the presentation, the better chance you have of converting that shopper into a customer, and a customer that repeatedly buys. Caspian can help our dropship partners make their listings much more discoverable and buyable, and it's part of what it means to be a value-added dropship partner. Back to you, Evan.
Thanks, Jim. So what does this look like in practice? If you're working with us already, talk to your account manager today about what it could look like to set this up. We're delighted to be infinitely creative to best protect your brand and ensure 100% uptime during these times of volatility. Like, we get it, it's hard, and we got to do some crazy stuff to make it happen. We can figure it out. With that being said, the one word of warning is this is going to look different depending on where your average sale price is at. If you've got a product that you've been retailing at $14.99, suddenly we need to be shipping out product at a pretty low cost to be able to make it happen. So that's the one caveat. We're going to discover that because we'll have a brief questionnaire that's going to help us hone in on any potential risks with regards to getting rolling. So if you've got a catalog, if you've got dimensions, weights, UPCs, that all helps a bunch. Then we'll go through a little bit of paperwork just with terms and conditions, make sure that's all set. And then we'll confirm and test a manual dropship process. And after that, we can be live as a backup, or we can remain dormant, waiting should there be any kind of volatility that requires MFN listings to be live. After that, we do, of course, have the option to move forward with integration for automation. So this is, if you speak any of the technical terms or can send them to someone who does, this is FTP, SFTP, EDI, AS2, API, RESP, ECT, find out what it means to me. They're all different ways that we can send and receive transactions. Or if you speak EDI, it's all those at the bottom, which basically translates to catalog, inventory, PO, tracking, invoice. So, if you're asking yourself, hey, am I dropship ready? Kind of the basic checklist to start is saying, is your warehouse or one of your warehouses capable of shipping direct to consumer? The answer is no. Then dropship in the way that we define it for hedging against supply chain volatility might not be the right fit for you. In addition to that, do you know how many days of handling time you need to fulfill orders to customer? If not, I'd advise that you find out and start getting those conversations sorted out now, so that it's not a guess or an emergency ask in the future. And then finally, do you have a single-threaded leader who can be the primary contact for orders and inventory? Start having those conversations internally if dropship seems like something that is right for you and something that you want to do to be able to protect your brand's listing on Amazon and keep that 100% uptime. I think finally, yes, awesome. Highly encourage everyone to go Google Plexador. It's great. They are these super cool dog doors. They look awesome. You install them into either your house or your door. And we started initially talking with them. Gosh, must have been February. Can't even remember the exact date. We started talking to them in February of a year. And the initial conversation went something like, hey, we've got a partner who's doing fulfillment by Amazon. We feel underserved. We feel like y'all could be a good fit, but we're not 100% certain. We're worried about sending inventory in for y'all FBA initially because our price is really important. Our brand is really important. We don't want to erode that. And so we said, great, we can fulfill by dropship out of y'all's warehouse to start, and then we can move into a hybrid fulfillment by Amazon and dropship model. And that's exactly what we did. And you'll see with this chart, kind of as lifetime sales continue to grow, as we use the information from dropship sales to help inform our purchase orders and help us ramp up. This allows us to do a couple really cool things using this hybrid model. The first is, again, these FBA storage fees and now inventory caps. We don't have to worry about having friction there and overbuying to satisfy a partner, because we're able to buy exactly what we think the channel needs for FBA. And then should we somehow get it wrong, or should there be a change in velocity, we're still protected, we're still in the listing, we're still live. So we're still up 100% of the time. For new products, this lets us launch and see success with new products with greatly mitigated risk. And then really overall, gather that initial data for these lower commit SKUs. So that would be a SKU where from a metric standpoint, it doesn't look like something that we could send into FBA, but we've got the actual sales data and the actual knowledge to say, okay, yes, we do. We know that the velocity indicates X from the Amazon metrics, but we know the reality is actually Y. And so that lets us deliver the most value for our partner. I think that might be it. I think we're moving on to Q&A, to Katie's time, who's named Matthew Boardman on my screen.
Yeah, my name's Katie, not Matthew. But thanks for sticking around, guys. We have some really, really good questions, so please do stick around. So the first one I wanted to start with was, why do you think that FBM sells less than FBA? Is it less customer trust, or what do you think goes into that?
That's such a great question. Oh, do you want to start, Jim? Go.
I have an answer for you. It's because we're spoiled rotten. When we as Amazon shoppers are so used to seeing that 2-day free shipping, and when we get that 2-day free shipping, it's tough for us, and this is perception, it's tough for us to wait, a couple more days for, the raccoon hat we just bought. So I think that perception is largely guiding that consumer decision to want the prime option versus fulfilled by a merchant. So we're spoiled. That's what it is, Katie.
Yeah. On top of that, prime impact SERP. So discoverability. Having a prime offer will lead more discoverability. And so that's why we always want to broadcast MFN and dropship is ideally an additional tool. and not the only tool unless required. You know, there are some products where you can't get around the fact that selling a refrigerator is likely not going to happen via Prime, or if it does, your margins are really going to just be terrible.
That would be impressive.
Yeah.
The only good news there is that everybody else is in the same boat along with you for categories where they are super oversized or LTL.
Yeah. And then speaking of margins and costs, there were a few questions around, you know, is FBM typically, does it cost more for the brand than FBA, and why would that be?
It's really going to depend on kind of what warehousing and logistics look like. So does it cost more? Not necessarily, but you really got to factor in the labor piece. You know, if you own your own warehouse, then you've got to go down to, hey, what's our actual cost for pick and pack? For products with generally a higher margin profile and generally larger, you can see some pretty cool value plays when you start playing around in the oversize area. And then the final piece of consideration is also it really comes back to fulfillment setup. If you're selling really small products that don't quite meet the small and light program, but are close, then you could also see a significant overall reduction. So that's a really long non-answer of yes, it's possible, in not always.
And it depends, right? It depends on the product and your setup and all of that. Yeah.
With that being said, when you get to those B2B cases where you're literally shipping a case of product or something like that, that's where you're going to see drastic overperformance for MFN or dropship orders, where you can really, like, you know, if you keep that price at $11 instead of $10.64, the example we looked at, suddenly that margin starts to stack up real fast.
Yeah.
And so being cognizant of those is great. Go ahead, Katie.
And I think that also is, you know, a good reason to have a partner who can kind of pivot between FBA and FBM and say, oh, this product, you know, based on your margins and your setup, this one might be better for dropship, and save you money that way. Just a little pitch there. Okay, how risky is FBM in comparison to FBA in terms of the possibility of getting your Amazon account shut down? Is there any risk there?
It is the riskiest option. So we spent some time with some consultants in the last year or two, trying to really accurately gauge our risk for us. And there were a couple very specific questions they were asking around dropship to make sure that we were not potentially going to be in an issue where we'd see an account shut down. So knowing that is something that is very much scrutinized from outside parties looking at risk, it certainly does carry additional risk when you're using your own seller account. Specifically around order defect rate is the big one, and then late ship rate is kind of the other big one. Those are the two scariest ones.
Yeah. Okay. What are some good indicators that dropship products should be migrated to being fulfilled via FBA?
Yeah, that's a great one. So the great thing about FBA is you've got all of your information there provided from Amazon. They'll let you know, hey, here's what your overall cost is going to look like. Here's what your storage costs are going to look like. Generally speaking, if you're seeing better margin and you're not going to be running into long-term storage fees and you're not going to be running into inventory caps, and your velocity is equal to sending a case over to Amazon, I would send the case over to Amazon. Even if the margin is break even, if you already own that inventory, then it makes great sense because you will see that additional SERP, you'll see that Prime badge come in, and that will help with future velocity as well.
Yep. Great. Thank you. Is there a way to automatically set up, you know, if you're selling a product via dropship, to have it at a certain, you know, threshold based on a metric, to have it automatically switch over to FBA or vice versa?
So it depends on if that question's about the listings, because the listings you can do real quick on for those of you versed in Seller Central, you can do two different things. You can switch a listing from MFN to FBA, or you can make a separate MFN or FBA listing. If you're considering doing a hybrid approach, I really recommend having two separate listings. You just have one that's your dropship listing, and then one that is your FBA listing, right? Both of those are going to be under the same ASIN still. But the auto switch, that's because you have to send inventory into Amazon and create a shipment. The automation would be as far as any additional service provider is able to do, or anything that you're able to do on your end to flag it. So as far as automatically happening in Seller Central, not that I'm aware of. They may do some recommendations, but if they do, we don't use them and we ignore them.
Okay, great, thank you. One question, so just to confirm, for dropship, you don't have your own warehouses, right? That's the question, but they are required to have their own warehouse, correct?
I'll answer this from two different. I'll cover all the angles. From the Caspian standpoint, we do have our own warehouse. It's just that when we are participating in what we call dropship, we are doing this from someone else's warehouse or supply chain. For folks who are drop shipping their own product, then this would be at a 3PL or somewhere else. So I guess in short, what we're talking about for dropship does involve us connecting with partners who have the inventory in their warehouses or somewhere in their supply chain.
Yep, great, thank you. Regarding some questions regarding our partnership, in this dropship scenario, who is the merchant of record in this relationship?
That's going to be us.
Okay, great, thank you. And then how does Caspian's style of dropshipping change for 1P brands?
Oh, that's such a good question. I'm going to have to get a written answer to that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to defer. There's so many things I want to say, but I don't want to speak wrong.
No, sounds good. Yeah, we'll follow up with whoever asked that question. So you get the special treatment. Is there a minimum revenue I need to produce to be a better partner of yours, or to be a partner of yours?
Short answer, yes. It's going to depend a lot on margin profile and setup. So we're always happy to review and have a conversation. So I'd be delighted if you can reach out on one of those links and send over some details. And then I'm more than happy to give some candid feedback there as well.
Yep. You can see the link here on the screen. So yeah, there's a form on that page. Please go fill it out. If you just want to chat about this or run, your product list by us, please don't hesitate to reach out. Okay, so currently we only use FBA. If we list to fulfill ourselves for FBM, do we release the pressure of storage limitations?
So your storage limitations will not, it's not going to have an impact on the limitations on your account. However, if you're finding yourself in a situation where you're not able to get enough inventory in, right, you're expecting your velocity to exceed the amount of inventory that you have on hand, then FBM is going to be a big help to you. And so figuring that out from somewhere in your supply chain or finding some new way to do that will be super helpful. And that's kind of exactly the whole point of this webinar is us saying, hey, this is a tool people need to use because we're seeing some unprecedented times at the FBA.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Does Caspian offer 3PL services as part of the dropship program?
I wouldn't necessarily define them as a full 3PL service, but we are able to purchase and store inventory. For us, that doesn't actually fall under what we call dropship, even though to Amazon the order is still merchant fulfilled. So that is something that we can do through our key partners. The the key thing to remember there is that generally speaking, 3PLs are going to be a little bit more expensive than fulfillment by Amazon. So if we're already seeing something where margins are kind of tight on Amazon, there's a chance that we're not able to move forward with something where margins even more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also some sizing limits too. But always happy to look, analyze, chat further.
What is kind of the standard like product that you would say is just ideal for drop shipping?
Oh man, ideal. I mean, okay. There's so many ways this could go. Like from a classic like value chain standpoint, the ideal product for drop shipping is something with super high margins and super high sale price and no return. So that's like if you're doing dropship as a business, the reason there is that any order could have an issue. So if an order has an issue, the more margin behind that order, the less impact of additional labor, troubleshooting, or problems occur. From a just general product standpoint, our sweet spot starts at somewhere around 35 to 45 bucks. That's where we see us being in line with the market, and that's usually because of the impact of shipping costs. So we're very, very much impacted by our shipping cost, because that's the primary thing that we'll see a delta on. So with that being said, the other part where we can find ideal partnerships is when we're working with folks who already have really dialed in or known rates or flat ship rates. That helps a lot too. So especially if y'all got any of those and want to work with us, let's holler at Jim or me.
Or both.
What is some advice that you would give to a brand who wants to start drop shipping?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is to understand if you're drop shipping yourself through your own Seller Central account, really take time to understand Amazon's metrics, because if you do it wrong on the first one, your ODR rate is 100%. There's a little bit of a grace period, but that's significantly higher than 2.5%. So take time to understand that. Be really cognizant of your DIMs. And this is actually just for everyone. Is there's dimensional weights, right? So it's length, width, height, all multiplied, and then the standard is to divide by 139. You can get some special rates if you do special things with special people. Being really cognizant of that is key too, because you'll run into, like, if let's say you're buying all your shipping from Amazon and you're not really watching what your DIMs are, you can like legit run into a $1,000 additional shipping charge if the girth and the length are wrong when you expect to pay $200 for shipping. So really watching and taking a measured approach to shipping cost is a really big important piece.
Yeah, paying attention to details, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Great. Well, that concludes our questions. Thank you so much for everyone who submitted those and everyone who attended. Again, please reach out to us if you have any feedback or questions that you'd like addressed one-on-one. We're happy to chat with you about dropship and anything else that we offer. With that, I'll just let you guys know you will receive a recording of this by the end of the day to the email you registered the webinar with. So thank you again, everyone. We will part ways here and hope to see you at our next webinar.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.